Hello, hello. How's it going, friends? Hey, got something. Chat, chat, chat. There we go. I feel like it's never what I immediately think it's going to be. We're going to do some more chat things. Speaking of chat, the last time we had started working on getting the ability to highlight chat messages. So we have, and I still don't think I put it up, chat on the side here. Should grab a thing of water too. We were working on getting chat to show up on the side here in a WebGL scene using with the interactions and the movement happening via physics engine. And last time we were taking that and expanding it and trying to be able to highlight a specific message and have the ability to take kind of a quasi control of it and move it out and put it in sort of front and center so we can talk about it more, and then put it back and resume. Got a tickle in my throat here. And we had a slight distraction. We were working up, or we did a quick detour to enable the drops. So we have a bot command now that we can do drops on. So in chat, if you type !drop, if I have it enabled on this scene, which actually I just realized I don't have. I don't have any of those turned on. I should probably turn those on. That's fine. We'll just go over to the display real quick here. The integration for the stream right now is based off of localhost. So we've got some of it hosted, but I don't think everything is there yet. So most of the integrations and things that we're testing have been based off of requiring us to be running a local version of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and toggle it all on now. So now the chat should work. Does this work? Does anything work? Is it all broken? What did we do? What happened? Helpers. Did I... I actually started opening it on the other monitor. I'm gonna just go ahead and pull it over from the other browser. We had got this going last week and then we merged it in. So we should be working off the main branch now. And this was doing adding the drops in. So we don't have any... It should be working. Let's go ahead and just re-pull from main here. Do a quick reinstall. I might have actually... I don't remember. I'm wondering if I might have actually deleted node modules, which is... Well, then V wouldn't be working. Just move this over here. All right. What did we run into? Use state is not defined in helpers. So we must have had something working, and then when I committed stuff up, it stopped. Import use state from slightly adjusted on my shifted over just slightly on my keyboard, and all my key presses were off. All right, hopefully that fixes it. Use operation is not defined. How was this working before? What did I end up doing? So I just committed it all. Were we working off a different branch? We don't have any other pull requests open. Monitor and highlight chat. We might have some stuff on this branch that's actually like required. So let's go ahead and do we'll reset, get checkout, monitor, and highlight chat. All right, let's give this a shot. So what we basically did those two things last time. We did got the drops working. Theoretically, they seem to not be now. Then we started working on the highlight, and what I did is I went back and pushed up the drops, the model drop stuff, and split out this monitor and highlight as a separate branch, so then I could share it in the server. Because what we ran into last time was that yeah, what the heck? All right. Use state from React. Import use operation from this. So, I don't know. Maybe my copying and pasting or something. Oh, there we go. Oh, lots of stuff is dropping now. There we go. And I made the stars. We made the stars yellow. Was that last time? They're yellow now. That makes me happy. Drop stars. So there we go. Timestamps. Hey, we're getting stuff working. And there we go. Okay. So in my shuffling around changes and commits, I apparently broke something. The thing that we were running into last time, though, was that in Streamer.bot, we had an action called highlight. And we were from localhost / monitor, we made a new endpoint where we'd be able to see any messages that came in. So I can requeue this chat event. So it should make it show up. Gross. But must be some logic off with that. Ooh, I had a quick bite to eat right before I started and tickle my throat now. We're gonna have to deal with that. But we made this this page where we can see chat messages. Zoom in just a bit here. Nothing fancy right now. It's probably even not terribly readable until I zoom in more. So this is basically just dumping out the the JSON object that we're receiving for each message, so we can see it, and then we can map all of those into an actual like nicer looking component. But the functionality that we wanted to jump straight into was the delete and the highlight. So if we click the highlight button, it changes the color here, just so we know that it's actually like working. And it needed to fire off in a webhook event. No, not a webhook event, a socket event. And we were just getting back to the status okay. But we weren't getting back from the stream events the fact that this highlight event ran, which was confusing. So long story short, I pushed up part of this stuff we were working on, pulled this highlight stuff out into a separate branch. We were talking about it in the Streamer.bot Discord, trying to debug it. It seems like it is potentially. Wow, that's very red. Colors my whole face. It seems like it is an actual issue, or at least it seems to me that it's something that feels like a bug. There is obviously something going on here that I think is unexpected, but when we actually put an additional event or additional action in here called highlight more, and I had highlight run or trigger the highlight more action, we actually do get a response back, or we get it not back, but we get a notification, I guess, that this action has run, but only the highlight more isn't. Something is funky going on there. But what that means is, with this, I'm going to qualify it as a workaround. We're actually getting what we need back. So this is useful because we can see it here, but also we should see it in our model tab as well. What we can do then is, in our chat events, we can make use of that highlight, in which we have a message ID and we can highlight a specific message. So let's go to our chat here. Not models, chat. So if we look at our kind of top level thing here, we had start working on this use highlight here. Try not to cough into the mic. So apologies ahead of time if it happens. We did put a default chat event in here as well, so we can trigger via hotkey. I think it's control. There we go. Wow, what is? It's putting the new ones in the same exact spot as the old ones. That is the reason. Can we do a slight detour here? I'm pretty sure that it's something of that nature. I think the thing that is difficult I mean, it's cool that this is all like physics here, and now we can put it and have it interact with other things in our world scenario, whatever you want to call it. But also, like, it's kind of difficult to debug those interactions. We've got to use effect, and we are setting the next position's fine. We want it to it should slowly move down with this code. What this is going to do is it's going to do a step. So the where is it? The position of the mesh is based off of set mesh. Yeah, so set next kinematic translation. So when we drop it in to our physics scene, it has basically 000 as its translation. What we can do is, since this physics body type is kinematic position, rather than it just working dynamically, which is the other option, the only way it's going to move in this case is if we apply kinematic changes. So our two options are to set a kinematic translation or a kinematic impulse, I believe. So we apply a force to it and then let the physics engine determine, based off of all the variables, like where is it actually going to land. Or we can do the translation and say we want you to go here. For the case of these chat messages, the translation makes much more sense for us because we wanted to just move it to a spot. But we don't want it to do it instantly, because for it to go from one spot to another instantly, that's going to pull a lot of force along with it, and any other objects that it hits, it's going to make it go flying. So what we do is we adjust the translation in small increments, which is based off of the performance.now. So I think this is fine. The performance.now I think is I don't know when that, and maybe this is why it's been harder to debug. When we refresh, it seems to be fine. But if the performance.now is doing, that might actually be from when the whole process started. So the longer it's run, the bigger this number gets, the bigger our steps get. So maybe that's not actually the best way to do this. So how should we? This is going to be in JavaScript. We kind of want just like a tick, like a timer. I mean, really. So what we want this to do is move. And we want it to move every time we do. We want to like keep doing steps, and we can keep those steps the same size, but so like the step itself can stay the same size, but this is probably that's probably kind of misleading, because it's not the step, it's the increment. And that increment is going to slowly increase in size based on performance.now. So if we refresh, it seems fine because performance.now is small. The longer the browser window stays open, the bigger this number gets, the bigger our increment is getting. And that, I believe, is why we are seeing some confusing results as far as our chat messages go. So if we do, we just want like a I mean, if we do like from when this we need a value that's slowly increasing. I guess, can we get the translation? So the reason we went this route was that it seemed that okay, so that was the issue. This fires off where there's multiple ticks of physics things happening. The ticks happen faster than the physics things happen, to where we would have 2 or 3 ticks where we wouldn't actually see any translation happen, even though we've told it to do the next translation. So if we were saying just increment based off the next translation, we were getting, we were basically saying, hey, increment until like translation is stopped, essentially. And that wasn't working because yeah, see, so that just wasn't working because what was happening was we were getting multiple ticks where they were the same. So we weren't able to do like any comparisons as far as the like translation or versus the values that we're telling it to be. What if we just take out this performance to now and we just do a small tick, and just every time, you know, step, and we will continue to step. Oh, I'll turn off my sound on my Mac over here. Go away. There we go. We're actually going to switch this back to a step because now this is really a step. Oh, I here, look, I've note to self. We need a dynamically increasing step, as a step in physics may only happen once per 2 or 3 calls of this effect. So this thing is triggering 2 or 3 times, but we wanted this value to keep going up. I think that's fine though, like if we just continue to set the same translation until the translation actually happens. I think that might be fine. Let's go here. We're going to look at chat. We have sort of 3 integrations right now for those that haven't been following along for the past little while here. We have the drops. So we've got these. We have that's fun. We've got the chat messages, and then we've got the 3 text. We have them all on the same route, but then we also have subroutes for each one of them. So when we're just caring about the chat, or we're just looking at a specific thing, we can go to the subroute as well. So in this case, we are looking at the chat, and we're just like super zoomed in here. There we go. Okay, so we're seeing stuff here. So if we fire off a chat message, what does that look like? Yeah, they're... It like doesn't show up. What the heck? So what I would typically do if we were just looking at HTML elements would be to look at the semantic HTML, not semantic, the tree of HTML. But it's all in Canvas. You can't really do that as well here. But what we've done is our integration of the chat messages is actually using HTML as a like synced up overlay of the WebGL elements. Those boxes that are like kind of tweaking out up there. The box itself is WebGL, the text is HTML, and that's what we're seeing here. So we have 3 text messages right now. Yep. So this is actually the text. And you can see that it's doing a bunch of positioning to get it to like line up well and line up with the box itself. And then what we are doing is moving the WebGL element that's on the canvas that we can't really expect. So we move the WebGL element, the HTML below kind of just comes along for the ride. So let's see. I think this is going to be too much. So the problem with doing a big kinematic translation is that we get this big jump, and then the physics that is applied causes the other elements to just kind of go wild. And it's just straight up not showing up. So we can use this to see that we're getting the text elements there, but we just can't see them. So what we will do is we're gonna say API.current.translation. We're gonna just log that out. This is gonna be pretty chatty. It is in a use effect, and that use effect does fire pretty often. And it's also a function, so we need to, make sure to consider that when we're doing our logs. So here, we're getting the increment, and it just kind of stops. So we needed to continue incrementing. Let's do this, and this is kind of whoa, boy. Switching back and forth between the Mac and my Windows backswitch. This is my brain is struggling a bit with the hotkeys. I'm getting better at the Mac hotkeys because I've done a lot more Windows. I'm getting better at the Mac hotkeys, but now that's starting to bleed into my Windows use, and now they're fighting each other. So we're gonna add a chat message. We're saying, hey, the next one is a negative 0.5. And it's still negative 0.5, but it hasn't actually translated yet. And then this thing ends up not firing again because we are paying attention to these two things. So static position Y. Where is that? Static position Y. And that is happening because we are setting the next position. And that's basically like triggering a redraw. So this is the check that we're doing. So we set it, and then when we set it a second time, that's interesting. So we know the translation. We almost want like the current translation and the next translation. Like we almost want to like save a global of it. That just feels awkward. If we apply a translation, it doesn't happen necessarily immediately as far as this use effect firing off goes. This is going to fire off every time we set the state. So once we apply the next kinematic translation, we also are kind of doing a cheeky thing and setting the position to get it to retrigger. There's also this use frame, and that fires basically on every tick. We might want to actually try switching back to that. Let's grab, because like the next position state isn't necessarily a value add here. Static position wide. Are we using it anywhere else? All we're using it is to get it to like a retrigger the use effect, which is sort of a hacky way to do it. But if we don't need, if we don't really care about this, and all we really are wanting to do is like these bits without the use state, we might be able to just keep on triggering it until this situation occurs. So if we add it in here, this is scaling the message, and it might be that the use frame was not firing as much as I expected it either, kind of because of the same issue. So if we say the mesh ref current position plus the translation, set the next one. And let's go ahead and remove the use effect. Let's see what that looks like. So it seemed like that refreshed. That seems to be fine. All of these are still firing though. So if we add in another message, that seems good, but it's continuing to fire. And I think that is the bit that we want to adjust. So let's go ahead and move this down here. We care about the position, the translation, and the next position, I guess. Well, the position, the translation, and the next position. Okay. Oh. So this is firing every time. Do we need it? Is that actually... No, it's not. We don't actually need to grab that every time. We just need to grab it here. What's this look like? Okay, there we go. It does come in pretty fast. So you can see the faster it comes in, the faster, the higher the velocity, the more, the higher the impact force. Let's see if I can use all these physics terms right. The higher the velocity of the thing, they all have the same mass, density, blah, 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 blah. The faster we move this thing in, the harder it hits the other ones down, basically. The hot module reloading does kind of do wonky things occasionally, so I think those things where that one was just floating up, I think that's just has to do with the hot module reloading. So we do this. It's coming in just a little bit slower, and I think we're getting dialed in here to what I think is gonna feel. I don't want to have too much motion. It's cool to see it. but I don't want it to go wild. So like this feels like enough of a movement, but it's not like bouncing everything around so much. Let's go ahead and refresh the test chat overlay here, and we'll do the same. Now these are two different instances. This is a browser window, and we just refreshed it. That one's been open for a little bit now. So they are actually going to look different and act differently. But it seems like they're doing what we're expecting now. So I think this is actually going to be way better than that use effect thing we were doing. And you can see we're going to just... If they come in too fast, we still do get some jank. You can see up there. Not there though. I don't think my hotkey actually respects the timeout. In our Streamer.bot, we have the chat event at a delay. So it's going to come in. We're only going to get a new message every quarter of a second. So as long as that holds true, I think it's going to... This looks a little bit funky. I'm going to try typing in a manual message here. Manual message. Let's see what that does. It looks a little bit funky because why would it be doing that? Okay, well, I guess that doesn't look too awkward. I think we're on the right track with this. I'm gonna go ahead and mentally commit this as the better answer. And we were struggling with this part and how this interacted. Mostly in that getting this if statement, because we want it to like run until it hits a specific point, which is the top of our chat. So what we're doing is we're actually spawning this element above the stack of messages and shifting it down. And we wanted to shift it down in steps so it doesn't like teleport. We wanted it to move like visibly like slide into place and push everything else down. And the we were able to get the use frame stuff to work, and this fires off basically like on the second or third tick or so when it's still above the fold, as it were. But we were struggling with that if statement and how it's figuring out position versus translation and whatnot. So I think we got that fixed. I swear, it's like it hears me. It's jing. Oh, what the heck? I think some of that is just the hot module reloading going kind of wonky with it. We're gonna call that good for now. So we want to do this text highlight chat, or the highlighting of this text. We have messages. The ID for our test messages are all the same, so that's gonna make things a little bit wonky here. I think if we replay a text event or chat event, that is by going into Streamer.bot, we are watching the chat event so we can requeue it. If we do that, I think when we highlight a message, we just want to highlight the most recent one. So I think what we could do is basically just like loop through all the messages that we have in our state and find the first match for message ID. And that's probably going to be the easiest as far as our implementation goes to. So like if we turn on the highlight, it highlights all of our in-queued messages because they all have a matching message ID. And holy tomato. That's the background color, tomato. So we have well, that's weird. Did I highlight that before? Let's go ahead and reload that. Put some test messages in there. So I think that works. We did get the boops. So what we want to do now is if we pull this out, we're going to put that here. We're going to put our test chat here. We're going to just scroll over a smidge here. So we should be able to now highlight on one window, and then we'll be able to see change on the other one. And what we're doing is we're doing the use highlight, and this is where we're getting the chat events. So the highlighted is going to be the value of the highlighted one, I believe. So we are setting the state of the data.arguments. I think the easiest way to see that this is working is going to be to change the chat box color. And we're using a texture right now. So what we can do is we can just tweak the texture. So we can say, let's say highlighted. And we're gonna set a default to false. And we're gonna say, size of the texture. So this either takes a string ID. So we're gonna say if it's highlighted, then do 7. Otherwise, do that ID that we have. So now that can take a highlight, but we need to pass it down. So highlighted is going to give us it's going to give us an object. And what we can say is highlighted equals this, and highlighted dot that's kind of fun actually. So highlighted is going to give us the arguments. So we're gonna get, if we look at like their test message here, we're basically gonna get all of these here, which are gonna be the thing we really care about is the where is it? Running action ID. Okay. Oh, yeah, we gotta do the highlighted. Because we want to see the highlighted event. So if we highlight one, we are going to see an event where we're passing the arguments. So message ID is the thing that we care about. In our highlighted, we can say highlighted.message ID. So if that message ID equals our channel alert, channel alert is giving us, where are we using it? Message box. channel alert here. So here we've got a username and message. So I think we can do channel alert.message ID. So if those match, it's going to give us a Boolean, and we're going to get it either it's highlighted or it isn't. And if it's true, then the highlighted here will be true, in which case our texture should be 7 rather than the ID. So we should get a different texture when we toggle back and forth between it. So let's go ahead and refresh. Let's go ahead and refresh. And then we'll say give ourselves a chat message to work with. It's not highlighted, so we seem to have a Boolean switched. We are getting the highlighted event. And it has the message ID. Did I spell something wrong here? Height lighted. At least that was consistent here. Holy cow. That's why I spelled it wrong there. So highlighted, height highlighted. I was actually consistent all the way through. I mean, probably some of that was the ID helped me out there. But yeah, that's sort of amusing. So if the message ID matches, then we want to set it to 7. I think that's right. Here. So highlighted is going to be coming from here. This should be giving me the state. And we are logging the events anytime we get a new chat event here. So let's go ahead and just give it a refresh. Go ahead and just do a test one here. Okay, so we got that. Now if we highlight, it changes. If we highlight again, it doesn't change. The second time we get a highlight data, we are sending the message ID, but we're not sending anything to tell it to turn back off. So when we click the highlight on this page, we want to be able to know if it is turning it on or off. And we do know if that's happening here. So what we can do, we can say if so if those match, then do this. And we can say we're toggling it. So if it is currently highlighted, event state. If it's currently highlighted, then we want to set the message ID to null, or maybe an empty string. So we'll just say empty string if it is no, we'll do null. We'll do null. So if chat event is highlighted, when we click this button, it's going to do the opposite. I feel like that's going to get confusing to keep track of. So what we're going to say, highlight equals this, and then we're going to spread highlight and we're going to take this logic here and we're going to shift it out. What we're going to say is if chat event is highlighted, so if this comes back true, we're doing the opposite. So if it's not highlighted, we want to set it to true, and then we want to set the message ID. Event state message ID. And then if it is true, we want to set it to false. So we're going to say false, and we're going to say message ID is null. And now I think that is going to give us two states as far as this goes. And now if we go ahead and refresh this, and we refresh this, throw a test message up there, we should get this, and if we highlight, it turns green. Looked like it changed a little bit, which is odd. What is that? Why did it do that? It's like that it got a little bit taller, which leads me to believe something is not quite working there. So it comes in, see it here, see it here. We hit highlight, that works. We hit it again. We should be getting, we're still getting a message ID as that. So there's still something not quite right there. Okay. So this is mapping over. We want to do the same logic. Where's this chat event coming from? If the chat event is coming back, we want to basically have these two states here. So now what we can say is event state. I mean, really, we want to just keep this all chat event. This is going to make this easier. And then what's going to happen is if the message ID is matched, then we're going to set it to highlight. And now what we can do here is we can say, well, just use whatever message ID we have set as far as our logic goes. And then this is the event that we're going to be sending to Streamer.bot, of which it should be sending back down, and we're consuming it. We send it on this side and we consume it on the other side. Give everything a refresh. Whoop, we already got an event there. Click highlight instead of the other button. Okay, so we got our chat. Highlight. Off. On. Off. Okay, so continued toggling doesn't work. We are sending arguments with message ID is null. Arguments, message ID is null. So when we send this highlight, message ID is still null. Because we end up effectively zeroing out the data there, which is not what we want. I mean, we basically have this piece of data here, right? And the two things we care about is highlighted and message ID. So if we do, I guess we just do this. Say is highlighted and chat event. No. Highlight dot is highlighted. It feels a little bit redundant, and we can't spread, which I feel like is a little bit, maybe a little bit less clear what's going on, but at least this means that we're not like mutating the message ID and like goofing up our state to where we lose it. And I think this is, now that we're not mutating the state and changing the message ID that's set there, we should be able to like click the button over and over and just see it all happen. So, boop, boop. Now if we add in another one, the message ID is the same for both of these right now. So if we click one, everything highlights. Curious. Interesting. So if it's highlighted, event state, we are changing the state. So we're looping over the current state, and then we're setting it. So if it's highlighted, we are giving it a new what if we do event state dot is highlighted. So rather than giving it a new object, let's change it. And here we'll move this down, get rid of this, and let's not return, and we're going to basically just mutate the map that's coming in and then set it. So we get that. Highlight works, although the size of it got kind of funky. That's weird. We highlight it and then it loses its kinematic translation. Where are we setting that? We are setting that doing a lot of scrolling here. We'll probably want to abstract this out a little bit too. As you can tell, it's getting a little bit unruly to where if my brain isn't super familiar with the code, I end up scrolling a bunch. So anytime I like walk away and take a break and then come back to it. Okay, so there's potentially hot module reloading coming into play here. I think when it does the hot module reload, so it's like trying to just reload the page out from underneath it, we get new objects which end up being handled in React 3 Fiber as new elements, and then it loses some of this. So we are dynamically setting the type here of the index is 0. So if we if we click the highlight, if that changes the actual index or the object that's coming in, we're like losing that assignment essentially. So if we instead move the how would we do that? So we get a map. Let's do a index. And what we're gonna do is, do we do that? Do we do that here? We are also setting, when we get a new event, we are setting our state here, and that's setting the state. Oh, we're spreading it. Okay. So we're tacking another one onto the end, so we get a new array every time we get a new piece of state. And we are using the existing state, or at least the like top 15 of them. So if we do a dot map over what's left, and we say event chat event index and we say return chat event. So every new one that comes in is going to be, when we get a new value in, that is this one, we want that one to be the new one, the chat message that has kinematic, what is it called? Kinematic. Oh, I'm actually editing the wrong. I need to be doing it in the chat here. If we, every new one we get is going to have the kinematic position set to that. Let's actually take it off. Oh, here. Do this. This. And that. There we go. So we don't care about it here, but we do on the chat window. And we can go into the use alert, and we'll go right here. So when we get a new piece of event data, what we're going to say physics type is that kinematic position. So every time we get a new one, we're setting the event data, in which we can set the physics type to be this. And now anytime we change the state, then we'll end up updating it. And what we'll say is we want to loop through and say chat event dot physics type equals this. So we're just going to set all of them. Whoa. We're going to set all of them to be dynamic in the previous set of them. And then our new one is going to be the only one that has the physics type of kinematic position. So in our chat box here, we now have a channel alert. Channel alert dot physics type. And that ties our physics type to our state rather than to however this however that ends up being reloaded and re-rendered. So we'll see if that actually breaks something. We could potentially be overlooking something, but I think this is going to make, especially as we like how to reload. I'll reload this up here as well. So new message. And now if we go into here and we just do a save and we do a hot modular reload, it tends to work with the React component state to where the module will reload, but our state sticks around through until we actually like refresh the page. So I think it's actually going to make that a little bit more like, as we're testing it and playing around with it, a little bit more like steady state. So you can see here, hot update. That's the hot module reloading. Okay, so physics type seems to be helping us. We have the highlighting. So now that the highlighting is part of the state, if we highlight, there we go. So we've now actually fixed. I mean, the one I think was technically only a bug that would exist in Dev when we were doing the hot module reloading. It is still weird that it like changes the height of the text there. You can actually see it here happening too. So that's weird. I am not certain why that happens. Let's see if it happens with... Oh. Oh boy. The source on this is wonky. Okay, so I click it here. All right, let's unhighlight all of the... So we need to tweak our logic here a bit. It's doing the chat events and reversing them and then doing this index. And that, I guess that makes sense here, because what it's doing is, so we actually do want that logic on both. If we do a copy and paste of the logic that we just chucked in here. Yeah, see, we don't even need the index here because it's just it's the new args. So if we go ahead and grab this, we go back to the monitor and dump it here. So now we get our physics type here and here. So we're doing this anytime we click the button. We also need to, we should be setting, okay, so we get a chat event that comes through. That chat event is going to determine what needs to be highlighted. Well, it's going to determine the next state if we're doing a highlight or an unhighlight. But the unhighlight should also unhighlight any of the others because we can only have one message highlighted at a time. So if we say, if it matches the message ID, then we're going to change it. But we also want to say that otherwise, we're going to set is highlighted to false for everything else. because we always just want to say if we're highlighting or unhighlighting anything that we're not changing or affecting should just also be unhighlighted. So that would mean that if we do this, that works. And now if we add another chat message, that doesn't look good. If we highlight this one, that reordering is still wonky. But if we go back and highlight the other one, that reordering makes it hard to see. Our previous one was here and it got unhighlighted. So they end up toggling back and forth between them. Can we fix that reordering? How is that being determined? So when we click we're doing it based off of chat events. Chat events is use state. When we click handle highlight, we are looping through the existing state and just setting it all. So we're not actually getting new state. When we get new values, we are setting the state here. Is that current state must not be stable. What's interesting is we're doing the same over here, but it appears to be stable. So we're, at least I think we're doing the same. We are looping through, and this is what we're rendering. We are rendering the chat event. We say chat event, but in reality it's actually chat events. Can I change that real quick? I'll alert. And chat events is based off of the use alert, which is setting state and adding a new one. So we're taking the existing state and we are mapping over it now. So it's possible that if we do a bunch of messages, are they actually going to come back in different orders? And highlighted, yeah, so something's wonky with our chat here. So that error that we saw, I think that's basically what's happening. Cannot read properties undefined reading message ID. So for some reason, it cannot read the message ID. So when we get a new value, we are doing the arguments, physics type, and timestamp. When we loop through, we're passing the index. The index actually isn't used anymore. All alerts. I'm actually get rid of the index because we're not even using it. I think it might be a little misleading. What's all alerts? We're not even using all alerts right there. So when we spread into this array, we might actually be like, that spread might be effectively like changing that array. So I think what we want to do instead is, if we do this, oh wait a minute. We're spreading then mapping? Okay, we want to do, let's take the, we have an array and then we map over the array and set all those to dynamic, and then we want to concate another value, which is the event data, and that can also be in an array. So we are concatenating a single item array to our existing data. And I think that the way we were doing that spreading was, the spreading and then the mapping was reducing or removing the stability of that concate, removing the stability of our array order. Concat, we're doing a set state map. So set state is a function. It should be returning an array. We're doing some logic here, which is determining we're either using the full array or part of the array. So we have some logic up front here that's dictating the array to start with. Wait, do we need I think that'll be fine. I think it's just complaining about, let's see, use operation, set state. Do you have closing for the set state? I think it's just complaining about our function here. So this is the parameter for a function. We need to close it here. Let's rewrite it as this. And then we can see if we can back into it. And set state. Be that. So that'll close that, and then we need this for the use operation. There we go. So we're returning this. So now I think we just straight up return this piece here. There we go. Okay, there we go. I think we're looking good. Let's just make sure that we got all the same here. That's closing that. Yep. Okay. So basically, it was just parenthesis and squiggly bracket mismatches, which is what it looked like. But there was just lots of them going on. That was hard to decipher. All right. New message. Not seeing it. which is not great. We are seeing it on the right here. If we highlight, that appears to be working. Kind of get a. I was looking at the chat events. Can I just requeue it, everyone? So I don't have to keep. Here, this is one that we can requeue. So that's still coming in. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna trust that. All right, it is still reordering it, which is odd. So like you can see here, the top right now and the middle are message ID, ASD, blah, blah, blah. The bottom one is an actual message. If we hit the middle highlight, they flip-flop. So the LCC, and I need to zoom in a bunch here. LCC is the original message, and now that ASD one is on the bottom, our test message. So they still are reordering. When we render it, we are doing a reverse here, then we're just we're rendering it there. Index. I don't really care about the index. This should be giving me an array, because we start with an array. So if we could resolve this error. First and see if we can sort of like solve them one at a time here. It's coming in fine here. That highlight seems to work. And if we requeue another real message, highlight, the highlighting works, but it's still reordering it. And you can see like this seems to be working decent too. And my contacts are kind of bothering me, which is why I'm blinking longer. All right, so why would that be reordering? If we look at the monitor page, we don't use index or all alerts anymore. I'm gonna just take those out so we can eliminate any possible distractions. So we're setting the state. The state is based off of this. If we straight up ignore that bit for right now and use the current state, what is that going to give us? We'll give it a refresh. We will give it a new message. We will give it a real requeued message, and we will highlight. So when we click highlight, we're triggering an event. Handle highlight. Handle highlight is doing this. It is setting an event list. And it's doing it based off of the current state. I wonder if the current... What is that current state? Let's wrap this whole thing in one of these. We'll do a return. So if we look at the current state, I wonder why would the current state be changing? That's the confusing bit, I think. Okay, so this requeue. So now if we highlight, we are getting that. And if we highlight, it does flip it. So the current state that we get here is actually flipped. When we return the current state.map, I thought map was stable. I thought I would change this set current state. Are we just like changing it somehow? So we're setting the state here anytime we get a new message. But we're not actually changing anything else as far as events go. So the only thing that's actually changing anything is when we click on a button. And it's doing the send, which is fine. I can't imagine that's going to have an issue with it. But we're doing this set event list, and that's a function. So the state that's coming in does actually flip flop every time we change it. So if we add in another real message, it comes on top. If we hit highlight, it puts it at the bottom. If we unhighlight it, it puts it back up at the top. Is it something with this is highlighted? When we get a new event in, we're setting the event data, and then we come back around and set as highlighted. What if I do when we first add it? When it is first added, it is never actually going to be highlighted. And here what we are doing is we're resetting the physics type. And that should be fine. I think I potentially want to keep the highlighted message. Yeah, I think I want to keep the highlighted message when we get a new chat message in. So we get a chat message. We get another one. That's a real message. We get another message as a real message. So I requeued these on the side. So now we have 3 messages. One is the fake one. They do flip-flop still. That is wild. When we All right, so our timestamp when we, even when we like requeue, well, our hotkey, let's see, our hotkey is doing a default chat event. So we get a timestamped message. When we requeue a message, we are doing the, so if it's a default chat event, we are setting the timestamp to a new one. Others are using the event timestamp. So when we requeue a message, it actually uses the timestamp from the original one, is what I'm guessing is happening. So if we do 1, 2, 3, we get 3 messages. Whoa, they came in a different order. They do actually change here. So I mean, there's the published at and the timestamp here. So anytime we get a new value here, chat event, I'm not sure if it's going to be timestamp greater than chat. I'm not sure if it's greater than or less than offhand. But I'm going to go the lazy route and just roll with that, and then we'll see this. Let's do another 1, 2, 3. Ironically, we still didn't get to the physics highlighting part of it. We've been getting stuck on random React stuff. The message could not be sent. Am I getting like spam rejected? Spam blocked? There we go. Weird. Oh, now it went through. Did it go through 3? Yeah, it went through twice. It's still out of order. Yeah, and it does reorder every time I like click the button. Okay, what goofy thing am I doing here? Because this should be, anytime we get a new one, it's going to sort it based off the timestamp. I'm going to go into this as well. Sort this based off the timestamp. Because it is only when I'm highlighting it. It's so wild that the I could have sworn that was stable. So I've definitely introduced like some instability somehow, unless I'm just completely misremembering, or I guess it could have changed too. All right, let's go. 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7's up at the top. Now if I requeue, we should have 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I requeue number 4, we'll get another number 4 timestamp. What are we looking at? 38. Okay, so the timestamp is actually when the event fires. which is what I want. So now if I go in and highlight number 4, oh, the timestamp has changed because we're doing handle highlight, and we're going to event and a chat event. This is going to have a message ID. Event state dot is highlighted. So I think we are actually affecting the timestamp for that event. Where are we doing that is the question. So anytime we get a new message, we are taking the event data and the timestamp, and then we are setting it. We're doing a set state. I still think I prefer this. I don't think this is necessarily giving me issues, so we're going to put that back in. Here we are doing a reverse. That should just be an array of the chat events. We don't actually use that anymore, so get rid of you. Key is fine. So when we set the event list on the handle highlight, we are doing an event state and an index. So if we are changing the event state and just returning it. So does the timestamp then update? Let's take out the sort. I'm actually just going to comment it out here because we copy and pasted, so at least we do want to go back. We can. I don't actually need the index. And here, all I'm doing is I'm setting whatever highlight value we care about and setting everything else to false. So the current state, we are mapping over the current state. Now let's watch the timestamps and see if they change. Well, no, it's sorting based off the timestamp, which is actually going to be different. So like my fake messages stay the same. When we add in a new message, you're getting timestamp that is different than this one. And now if we change, we're gonna this is big enough, we're gonna go ahead and just copy and paste this right into here. So that should be for number 8. So our message, which looks funny, matches the timestamp for this one, which is now out of order. So 513, yep. And now if we highlight the number 8, it is highlighted. The timestamp is this. Is that timestamp the same? Yeah, so the timestamp's not changing. Can't really sort based on the timestamp because our fake one kind of messes up that expectation, I think. But we are definitely not getting here. We're basically toggling between them. So when we set the state, the one that we end up changing ends up basically getting popped to the top of that state, which is a little bit awkward, I feel like. And these are effectively no ops. So the way that as I understand it, the way that React does it, I don't know if it's just the functions. What it's doing is it's basically doing like a lazy application of the change. So if you give it a full object, it's only gonna like update the pieces that are based on the data that have changed. So in this case, we've got an array. It's only gonna update the components that have changed, which is probably why it's putting that the one that's changed up at the top. Do we introduce an order? I mean, that's basically what the timestamp is, right? So if we requeue a message, we get a new event with a new timestamp. So I think we can order it based off of the timestamp. Like I said, it's gonna get a little bit weird with our test message here. We're probably gonna want to change that to match the same format as the events that are coming from Streamer.bot. So that our test event timestamp matches our other event, or our real event timestamp. So timestamp, and now it still flip-flops them. That's weird. So we're calling a reverse. Chat events is based off of that. And if we're doing set event list, okay, let's focus on just the real messages. Make sure it's just not. We can do 1 and 2 and 3. So they're not ordered correctly right now. The timestamps should be dictating that, yeah. And if we highlight number 3, it gets dumped to the bottom. Even though the let's see, 46, 12. So 8, 10, 12. So we can't really do reverse. If we take this out, we are calling .reverse. I think in reality what we want to do is just call the sort here. So then when we are sorting it and the key here, we should be spitting them out in the order based on the timestamp. Where's the, here we go, chat. So now if we do this, yeah. Now if we do a 1, a 2, and a 3, we're getting them backwards. So we do need to change this because we want, nope, this. Yeah, we'll try out. Hopefully one more time. 4, 5. So 5 should 6. Oh, couldn't be sent. I really think it doesn't like me sending single numbers. So they are still in the wrong order. It's because we didn't refresh. Wait. Yeah. Let's refresh the browser. Let's make sure that we get a good refresh in here, and then we can type a message or 3. Type message or 3. So that is not the order that we want them in. I wonder if I did my sort right. Did I do my sort right? I guess we shall see if it works. So chat events has, all right. MDN array sorts. Array.sort. Sort sorts in place for returns the references. Now sorted. Okay. So I can do a compare function, or I can just call sort, which might actually just do it in the order that I'm hoping it for. I can never remember if it's ascending or descending. Which one should I use? Need to look it up. So it's not that order. We want to do the opposite of that. To compare numbers instead of string. Oh, wait. Ah. Okay. What is the... Oh, well, we're doing it off the timestamp, but the timestamp is technically a string. So we kind of want string sort, right? And we want it to be like we can't, we're giving it an object. So I think we need to give it an actual function. And so this dictates that it is stable. Speaking of stable, is splice stable? So when we say stable, when you have an array, there is technically no expectation that the array is going to stay in the order that you have it. So like array is just a chunk of data that you're able to like loop over. There are some. Okay, splice is a mutating method. Okay, so we don't want to mutate. So if we do this, I don't know if that's the issue. I don't think it is as far as the stuff that we've run into yet. Because most of our testing has actually been in less than 15. So splice might be fine. Is there, all right, string compare. So there's a local string compare. And I mean, that's probably fine to they have another way to do a comparison. I don't actually see. So we can potentially do this local compare. After sending, so sending, descending. So I'm not sure if this is going to give us. Where's my sort now? I'm not sure which direction that's going to give us. I think potentially we want to flip-flop that. But that's okay. So now if we do message to test the ordering, a.local compare is not a function. Interesting. Woof, did I just like... We are doing a comparison with A and B, but in reality it's chat event A and chat event B, of which chat event A is a message is the thing that we care about. Chat event B, no, excuse me, it's not message, it's timestamp. Timestamp. When it was trying to do the comparison, when there was only one value, the comparison basically just went, hey, you know, we're only looking at one value, so what are you doing? But when we have a second value in there, then it was comparing to objects instead of strings. So now, then it was comparing two objects instead of strings. So it's backwards right now. If we do, I think we can do that. Is it, what does this return? Hey Ryan, how's it going? Okay, we get a 0 or a 1. And sort is we want a okay, so if it's a 0, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, okay. So if it's a 0, it's not going to do anything. It's going to keep the original order. Otherwise, it's going to be okay with the -0. Can I do that? Because I want the opposite. Beyond disbelief. How am I liking streaming on YouTube? It's been going good. They don't have quite the features that Twitch has as far as like 3dog. Nice. How's it going? They don't have quite the features that Twitch has as far as like I guess viewer interaction. So like the channel point redemptions, that's probably the biggest thing. But like, I don't know, presuming it might actually be broken now because we've been playing around with it. But if you do !drop, I just changed it into a command, and we're just through Streamer.bot, I can do hey, there we go. I can do, we only let certain people or certain subsets of people or whatever groups actually use some of those, and I don't, that'll work fine. Yeah, I mean, other than that, it's mostly been the same. It's been nice not. When I first switched over, I streamed 4 days in a row. It's not nice not having to like do lightly editing and thanks for the subscribe. It's nice not having to do the light editing and pushing them up. I do think it feels like YouTube pushes the content differently than if you just upload a video, because the like the views and the interaction with the videos, I think, has been slightly different, especially since they're in separate tabs now. So I think honestly that's probably been the biggest thing that I've noticed. But I don't know if that's really a big deal for me. I'm kind of thinking these streams are going to be a little bit more like behind the scenes feel. I would kind of like to bring people onto the stream too and have it a little bit more just like chatting and experimenting kind of thing. And then the actual videos that I put on the channel are going to be more like refined content of things that we learned during the stream, or just questions that have come up. There's I think probably one of the first videos that I'll do is, this is Windows. I've gotten a fair number of people asking me like what my Windows setup is, and I don't think that's a terribly common thing to have somebody using Windows and have it as customized as we do. We've got a few integrations and things going on here that would be I think kind of fun to talk about. Like everybody has Macs. Generalizing here, Mac is very common, and customizing and setting up a Mac, that seems to be relatively common or easy thing to find. So anyways, what we're trying to get working is having basically, so we've got the chat, which is probably broken at the moment, working with physics, and what I want to do is have sort of like a chat monitoring thing on the side that I can click a button and highlight specific messages, and we'll pull them out and make them bigger. Right now we have the color changing working. But the thing that was happening was when I would click highlight, my sort order and everything was changing. So I think we were sort of getting lucky before in the way it was ordering. When we were putting them into this state, they were just being basically shown in the order that they were inserted, essentially. So now we're being a little bit more specific about sorting the actual messages, because we're changing values of some of the messages that have already been inserted. So where are we at with that, by the way? So if I like highlight this one, okay, they seem to be stable now. If we refresh this, do we have any more errors? Okay, so something is going on here still. We'll have to, I think we're gonna have to copy and paste some of this stuff over, because we need to, I think we end up wanting to mirror the same exact situation. So yeah, before we were just calling it reverse, because we want the most recent messages up at the top. But that was seemingly very dependent on the insert order and the way that React does its dynamic state, wherever the heck I started doing that. Yeah, this the set state here. Oh, speaking of a little bit behind live, what's your latency? There's also latency in chat too. So like, I think chat messages can come through. I've got a chat message window here and the same exact thing on that monitor over there. And those come in at different times. So I think there's like me talking chat latency to you seeing, but also you typing to I just saw it. How do I check? That's a good question. There is I think a way we can tell with the stats. We're not getting this through right. I'm gonna mute. If we go to stats for nerds, I believe it has the live latency. So in this stream that I'm viewing right now, 2.2 seconds. Yeah, the message sending is definitely different than how Twitch does it. Twitch is like a classic IRC chat, which seems to work. I don't know. I don't think I really have an issue with how they send the messages. When I first started streaming, that was probably the biggest thing that I ran into. Ryan, speaking of differences, the default normal chat latency is like 20 to 60 seconds or something like that. So people would type something and then there was like a zero, well, probably not 0, but like up to 10-second chat delay, plus the live delay. Like chat messages were taking a good 30, 40, 50 seconds to actually, or me responding to chat was like a good minute delay, which was kind of awkward. So I switched it to like the super low latency one, and it sounds like it's a couple seconds. Yeah, there is literally a button that's the options are normal latency, low latency, and ultra low latency. So this few second delay is ultra low latency. So there are some restrictions for it. You can't have live captions. You can't stream 4K. And I think it was, just say here. 1440p and 4K. You cannot stream with ultra low latency. I'm streaming in 1080p right now, so not the end of the world, I don't think, but they're just behind in the back end compared to Twitch. I don't know how true that is. I would almost expect that YouTube is further ahead as far as video processing goes. They're just at a different scale than Twitch is. Also, Twitch is not profitable. I wonder if that comes into play there too. And I don't think it's terribly common to see people streaming 1440p and 4K on Twitch either. So I wonder if that actually has something to do with it. Like if you stream 4K on Twitch, I wonder if you just get more buffering. And YouTube is putting guardrails in to just prevent people from having a bad time. Okay, so what? All right, we were copying stuff over here. We got the sort in. Let's take. I think we had a sort on this. So slice does mutate. We want to do this. And oh, okay, what happened here? We want to map over these values, map and concate, and that. There we go. With regards to chat, if you hang out in the OBS Discord, they had some explanations of some of the YouTube chat. Yeah, okay, yeah, so I think the chat is implemented differently. And honestly, if depending on your definition of behind, Twitch, as far as I know, is using it like an IRC, internet relay chat server per person, or a channel per person, and it's just always running. And that tech is what? How old is IRC? IRC's been around for a long time. IRC introduced 1988. Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, depending on your definition, they're using tech that's been around for a long time. So like, I think it's just fundamentally a different methodology. I don't know. Now that I know about it, I don't feel like it's a couple second delay isn't the end of the world. 30-second and a minute long delay. That was disruptive, for sure. All right, give this a reload. There we go. But it's highlighted. We're gonna go ahead and reload our chat here to see if we can get that working again. Because we have dealt with the errors. So there's this. Now let's double check our highlighted here. So we're doing it based off of the message ID. Let's give this all a refresh. Now is this going to be highlighted? Yes is the answer. Okay, so a couple of things. I toggled it, and so it's coming in highlighted by default now, which is wrong. But when I toggled it, the text font got taller as well. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I will chat with you later. Okay. So why is it coming in by default as that? Once we can get all this React-y type things kind of squared away, then, I mean, we keep saying we're going to do the physics part of it, but like we got the highlighting mostly working, and once all that's squared away and we have just the highlight color changing, and that's the only thing that's like changing about it, then we can start working on the actual movement of it. And I feel like that's been a bit of time getting to it. The chat is based off of the message ID. So if the highlighted message ID when we click the button in here, we are setting the event state that is highlighted. And when we send it, we are sending the highlight.message ID. It's it's possible that something's happening with null. Let's just say it's none. Message ID should be a string. So just to kind of keep it in the same data type realm, let's go ahead and give that a try. Okay. Not okay. Okay, we're gonna have to change our default chat event where we were generating a timestamp. This is what we've been using to test rather than having to type in the chat every time. MDN date. We're using a date.now, which gives us an integer, not a string. So we can do, so date.now gives us number of milliseconds elapsed since the epoch. And we actually want a string. What would that be? Is that time string to UTC? No. What is their format? And it's not on there. Requeue. That one is broken. Let's go over to the that one's broken. Timestamp. Nope. Timestamp. Nope. All right. Let's requeue. There we go. So this is the format that we're trying to match. ISO string. Is that an ISO string? It doesn't have the Z. I don't think it's going to be any of these other ones. It's toString. I mean, I guess we'll try the toISO string. And that's based off the date object. So if we do date.now returns if we do a new date, what does a new date give us? I don't think that actually gives us the like an now. So if we do, so this is using a new date. So if we do const try equals date.now, and if we do console.log try toISO string, I don't think that's actually gonna work, but just oh yeah, haha, reserved word. Now. Yep. So we need a date object. If we say new date and give it this. Yeah. I don't think it's perfect as far as, I don't think they're actually using ISO, because like there's the Z in there and it's not in the other ones, but like at least that'll give us a string and it's not going to break stuff. So that's probably going to be just the easiest thing to do here. New date and dot toISO string. So now if we had to do a bunch of test events, it shouldn't just randomly break on us. It's still breaking on us. Timestamp. Timestamp. I mean, it's a string. So this still has a, did we refreshed it, right? Ooh. Why do I have it in both places? Ugh. Yeah, we're getting to that point where we should abstract some of this out. Yep, here we go. I tend to, as far as abstraction goes, try not to do that. You know, it's prematurely optimizing essentially. And as I'm working on stuff, if I find myself scrolling a lot, trying to find a thing, or I have values in the same value in 2, 3, 4, 5 places, that's when it's like, okay, yep, it feels like it is time. All right, highlight, off, on, off. Refresh. Let's get a couple test messages in here just so we have like a real test. This is 1, and now 2, then 3. And we get the sort is correct. 1, 2, 3. And do we not get a message ID in this? Data event ID. Okay. Oh wait, no, that's the YouTube event, right? Yep, that's the YouTube event. Message ID there, chat event. Chat event, message ID. So why are we complaining again? Cannot read properties of undefined reading message ID. So one message seems to work fine. It's highlighted, so that's wrong. The second message is not coming through as expected. It works fine in the monitoring. So this is working fine. So there's still something off in our chat. We have a sort. We are doing the timestamp, local compare. We are mapping over each chat event. I'm actually going to change these to be chat event. Yeah, that's fine for right now. So chat event timestamp is the key, and then we're checking to see if the current highlighted message ID matches chat event message ID. So that should on every render, if we do this log out the highlighted, we're gonna put it in. I think log is gonna work better. When I'm using Node, I tend to do console.dir because the logs that it outputs tend to look better. In the browser, if you do the shorthand property, is it undefined? What's my default state for chat canvas? Default test state. Use highlight. Use state. Okay, so let's see. So default state for highlighted is empty. So if we say message ID, and we're going to say the default state, or the initial state rather, is the setting the message ID to nothing. So we're not going to get any like undefined calls. And that's also when we want to remove the highlight, that's what we're setting it to. So I think that'll deal with this. And hopefully be the thing that was giving us troubles here. So now we got, by default, message ID set just as a string. So if we add some text to the mix, scroll over here. So it's still highlighted, so that's not great. Oh. What in the heck? Some text to the mix. Message ID is set. Highlighted is undefined. So at some point we are getting an undefined. In our highlighted, we are looking at, for each thing, and we are setting the state. So the value that we're setting as the arguments, which is it should be the message ID. And I think we actually do want to turn that on now. So we're actually getting it undefined because things are coming through. And we don't have that set, I think is what's happening. So right now we are not filtering on any events. We're just getting the full fire hose of events. And that argument isn't always set on all of the events that we're getting. So by using this, we can say we want it to be the raw action. What do we actually have? Do we have that turned on here? Chat event. Yeah, so this is listening for chat events. It's not listening for highlights because it's doing the highlighting. It doesn't care about the highlights. But what we're doing is we're firing off an action called highlight. So here, the highlighted should only listen for the highlight. I spied highlight again. Wrong. It's going to be triggering the source raw type action name highlight, not chat or stream event. Yeah. So then I think this is going to give us just the events that we care about here. So now we get a highlight, which is got no idea. And now if we throw something, scroll over into the chat. There we go. Finally. And now what we can do is go into here and we can say we want to highlight into the chat. Hey, look at that. Ooh, all right. Now, we have the sort order based on the timestamp. So we could do whatever the heck we want with these. You could explode them and then put them right back. Because we can reset the positions. But I think what we want to do is say, we want to freeze everything. If we highlight stuff, let's just focus on that part of the chat and not change any chat. And that means that when we go into here, so this is if that one is highlighted, and we can say any message highlighted equals false, and we can say any message highlighted equals this, and we can say if highlighted dot message ID does not equal that. So now we're basically going to have a Boolean that says if any of the messages are highlighted. And if any of them are highlighted, we want to set our type to fixed. So this fixed and this. I think our type was fine before. We switched it because we thought it was something with the state mucking with things. The state and the hot module reloading. I don't think that was actually the issue. So I think we'd probably be fine there. I think so. So if we go ahead and throw in a message and then we highlight something, well, that's fine. I mean, this is the same, technically the same message, so it's highlighting everything. Now, if we add in a new message, we get the new message. Nothing's going to be moved though. So if we unhighlight it, do we go back to physics? It's not going to work. We are freezing everything. I might need to end up hooking up something in Streamer.bot as far as like if we're in highlight mode or not. Which is not... I don't love it. I don't love it. But it might be the way we end up having to do it. So what's happening, I think, is we get a message. It comes in. We highlight it, and we get another message. It comes in. You can see our physics type here. Oh, wait. Okay, I mean, that makes sense. The physics type is correct. And if we add in another message, physics type is still correct. But these are going to be positionally on top of each other, and I think that's what is part of the issue. So now if we unhighlight, we've now gone back to like default physics mode. Everything should be either kinematic or dynamic. And if we add in another one, nothing's actually changing anymore. We should still actually have them all. If we look at our HTML, yep. For the first one, you can see it here. Everything else is going to be above though, because we don't have anything to actually push it down anymore. And I think that's what gets a little bit funny with the way we're doing it with the physics, because we are dependent on physics doing the movement for us. So if we need to like reorder it, we're gonna have to like recalculate positions or something, which is gonna get lovely. But what is happening is we're freezing the chat, so then everything else is going above the fold and not pushing anything down and just doing this over and over and over. Just not great. We can potentially just pull that one out. So if we don't actually fix anything and we just straight up use this like we were before. And I'm going to leave that in any message highlighted in there because I suspect we might end up wanting to use it. When a message is highlighted, we can say impulse. This will re-render. I think we do this with the use frame. So use frame is going to basically like continue to fire, and we've got in here already like a recalculate, the size of the mesh and scale the text to get everything to like overflow and like reflow correctly. And then when a new one comes in, we're pushing all the others down. And we're doing that via a set next kinematic translation. So if we also do a if statement here and just say, this is a set, it's not a, if we continue to fire off this set next kinematic translation, where if we have a static variable, it's going to be set and not change. It's not an additional thing. We're not continuing to push it 5. You know, if we put in 5, the let's go a little bit less. If we say that, we are not I think this ends up getting stirred up. We're actually gonna have to set that to kinematic as well. Okay, so if is or highlighted. So if that's true, then we're going to use kinematic position. Otherwise, we're going to use the type that is defined as per the message. And once we drop it in a kinematic, it's going to freeze it. I believe it's going to freeze it where it currently is, and then we can set the next kinematic translation. And this will allow us to like pull it out. We're gonna try that and see what this gives us. I don't know where it's gonna put it, but if we say every time you fire, if highlighted is true, then like pull it out. And let's see what's gonna happen. So we're gonna do an actual message here, just because our default is gonna have the same message value. I should probably randomize that. That actually might be a good idea to randomize it based off of like the timestamp or something like that, because that's gonna be more realistic. But if we do well, I mean, it went through. It went through. Sometimes those single number messages seem to fail. So we're getting this in an interesting order. Whoa, what is it with that one? Okay, that was curious. Let's re-queue these. That'll bring them back in. That was weird. Okay, so the order seems correct here. If I hit this, oh boy, it like I mean it makes it moves it. It's moving it to a place that so like if we do 00x, let's try this. Now I'm gonna reset the text chat up here. Hopefully I waited long enough between them. We're going to reset this. We're going to actually try it up here as well as over here. New text message. So the top message there is the one that like sticks it to the top. So we're going to add in a new message, and we're going to highlight. We're not going to highlight that top message. A new message. Okay, all right. My text was very similar, and I was like, wait a minute. So we want to click on the new text message. Wow, this is really confusing to say. The message that says new text message, because that one is going to be a dynamically positioned. So I click that, it highlights it. Interesting. It is redoing that. It doesn't seem to be changing the type though. Can I set, let's see, API.current dot nothing. Okay, go ahead and give me the full API here when it is highlighted. That's going to show up here. So if I highlight a message over here, and see, this is the use frame is not retriggering. So use frame is going to trigger whenever there's like a WebGL re-render. When we do the highlight, it is changing the material. But that doesn't seem to be actually triggering the use frame, although it was before. I have noticed that, like, depending on the refresh, sometimes stuff will work with hot modular reloading and sometimes it won't, which is kind of awkward. But you know, I guess it is what it is. So let's just throw a test message in here. Okay, we're getting a bunch of these. We can set the next kinematic translation, which is what we're doing. Oh, I thought there was a set next. Okay, you can apply an impulse or you can set the next thing. You can either set translation or rotation. That makes sense. Are we able to change the... Doesn't seem like we can actually change the type of physics body that it is. And like, I mean, that might just sort of be like an odd thing for it to do. Reset forces, reset torques. Okay. So we might end up wanting to play around with that a little bit. I think we're gonna give it another try. Oof. Let's just throw some test messages in there. So this one right now is the kinematic. What is it? Kinematic position. So if we highlight it, it is going to move because it's not. It doesn't set it back. So I think that's the things that we're gonna struggle a little bit with here. We set the kinematic position, but we need to reset it back to where it was originally. And that's going to get odd. But that works because it was already kinematic position. So now if we add a new message in here, it's shifted over. It did switch to dynamic. It is now physics type dynamic. If we highlight it again, it just highlights. I don't think it actually moves though, because it is still technically, I think depending on how it does the rendering, it hasn't actually changed the like physics type yet. And if we do this, it bumps that one down. See, like things get real wonky here because they're like putting them on top of each other. New message, now they're on top of each other. Like that just, that shouldn't be happening. Oh, and well, now things are even more weird because we got the same message in here twice. So I think we're gonna have to think about that a little bit here. And this probably is gonna be, it's probably gonna be a good place to stop. But let's throw a couple thoughts out here and we'll stew on it for next week. The things that we're, well, I've refreshed it now, but the things that we're getting don't really allow us to like set things. We could potentially, we need to re-render to get the position to like adjust. And by changing the re-render happens when that use frame is triggered, but the use frame doesn't necessarily like trigger on every change. So if we say a thing is highlighted and we change, it doesn't seem to actually be triggering the use frame. Although when we switched it to highlighted it was actually, we were getting use frame triggers. If highlighted is false. So it's just setting this over and over until we go out of it. So if we do any messages highlighted, we could potentially do a thing where we like reset the position of everything. So if something is highlighted, we'll freeze everything and then like okay, so if it's highlighted, do this. Otherwise, do the physics type. I mean, it's basically if anything is highlighted, then we want to do, and this turn area is going to be kind of icky. If any message is highlighted, then we want to fix everything. If anything is highlighted, but this one isn't highlighted, we want it to be fixed. Otherwise, do this. And if this one is the one that's highlighted, and do kinematic position. Otherwise, do the physics type. Ugh. Don't like it, but I don't really want to refactor it at the moment. So let's give that a quick shot here. Test message. And the problem that we ran into here was that when we were getting other messages, they were queuing up on the top. I think this is gonna be the way to go. If we say, if we go to actions, we can say highlight more, and then we also want to, we've got a queue. We are listening for the highlight stream event, dumping it into the stream events queue. I think we want to have a actually it's going to be different. Yeah, okay. We want to do the highlighted queue. Highlighted queue. Wait, chat. Okay, we're actually going to change this. Chat events. So stream events are things that just happen and we're going to like process them immediately. But we might actually want to pause chat, and commands are also chat. We don't really use reward anymore, but so what we're going to do then is that we are going to say when highlight is triggered, we are going to actions, we're going to set action queue pause state. Can we trigger it? Get clear queue, run action set. So we're gonna pause. We're gonna pause chat events. But then we need to unpause it. We'll just manually do that for now. And then I think maybe we'll just clean it up if this ends up being the way to go. And I might just do that off stream too. So if we get a message and then another message, we're gonna see them here. That one's still kind of messed up, but whatever. And now if we highlight this, we'll look at the action queues over here. We should get our chat events paused. Chat events is paused, so we're not going to get any more messages right now. So if we type in another message, we didn't get any right there. So we're free to like do whatever we want. Yay, it is paused. Now, if we then unhighlight this, and we'll have to set it up in Streamer.bot, I think, then have that actually trigger the chat events to resume. They came in on top of each other. And I think there's still some... Did it? It put those right on top of each other. So like when we resume it and clear the queue, it doesn't actually seem to... It doesn't actually seem to consider that sub-action anymore. And can I do... I can do a logic. Logic, if else. I don't really want to do a variable. So if we do get clear, get action state. So I think this will like give us the, yeah, I think we're gonna have to do some stuff in here. I think I can potentially get it to pause and then still bring him in at the same interval. And in which case we could potentially do then, we'll not worry about that for right now. So if we do we fix everything and then only set the highlighted one to kinematic position. And then we say, we almost want to like trigger it at a higher level. Like, do we pass that API up? Ugh, that just feels not great. So if it's highlighted, we set the kinematic position to be this. I mean, we can do kinematic positions on anything, but it's only going to be affected by it if it is actually kinematic. Or excuse me, we can set a kinematic translation on anything, but it's only going to affect it if it's a kinematic position. For its rigid body type. So if we would do this and actually reset it to be whatever it was originally, is there a let's do a console.log api.current. So I definitely said that we're I think we're done here. Whoops. Not quite done yet, I guess. Some message ID. And now if I highlight something and unhighlight, so this gives us a whole bunch of these. Is there a reset? Add, apply, mass, reset, forces and torques. So we can only set. And we do know the previous kinematic translation, or we know the previous translation. So if we figure out some specific value here, we can do that in a state. Is that I don't know if this is gonna work, but we're gonna go for it, because once it goes into dynamic mode, then it gets a position. And what we're doing is when it gets highlighted, we are putting it back into kinematic, and the position doesn't matter anymore. The translation matters. So I think that's going to be a thing. I think that's going to be the thing that we want to play around with next time. And like, once we get this working, I think we've pretty much hit on all the stuff that we want to do as far as experimenting and getting this set up. There's probably a few more things that I'll end up doing and adding to the overlay, but I don't know that it makes sense to continue to belabor these interactions, because I think like once we solve for how the physics deals with this stuff, Oh, yep, it's paused. There we go. It's not here. What the heck? Action history. Just re-queue that again, please, and thank you. Okay. It doesn't like that. So something is funky. Something is funky there. And if we would turn that back off. Oop. It is up there. Let's do .current.translation. And position. We're gonna log these out. We're gonna see what they say. And then I think we are gonna call it a day. And we're gonna do it both when we're not highlighted and when we are. So this is probably what's actually setting it. Once we set it back to not being highlighted anymore, we need to reset it. But we don't want it to actually fire every time, is what it's seeming to be. So it seems that it might actually, the translation might actually happen even if it's not a kinematic position rigid body type. We want to go to the queue. Let's go ahead and just re-queue. Okay, we're still paused. Okay, so we're getting undefined for position. Okay, so I think that's sort of the case in point here. Once it's in physics world, like, it's just doing its own thing. And there is a translation value. So we could potentially record it. Blast. So if we did XYZ equals this, and that, and this. So as long as it's currently on kinematic, like, let's just reset it to what it was before, and then we might be getting ourselves in a race condition here, depending on how fast it's setting the rigid body type. But let's give it a whirl. Chat event is not paused. I am going to re-queue the chat event that we did. We're still getting a whole bunch of things. The translation is 0. And that doesn't work either, because it is actually seeming to change it. So what's our, let's just do the API.current. And if we open up one of these, so it's getting the translation. Oh, yes. Okay, so the API doesn't have a position, but the mesh does. So we might be able to set the translation to match the mesh ref position. it's rolling, that's for sure. Okay, so it's got to be highlighted. Let's go ahead and highlight a message. We're gonna start getting, oh, these logs are going wild. Okay, so we're getting vector, or we're getting translation and position. So if we set this to be this position, what is that going to do with it? Our stream chat event is paused. We'll re-queue. Now we get a bunch of messages. Let's go ahead and just take these out for the moment. Yeah, so like, I think the reset is going to be difficult. We're going to have to like figure out a way to deal with that. So we can set a value. We can potentially fix everything, fix it all, pause events so we don't get any new chat events. So we're going to be like, I mean, I guess we could figure out some sort of ordering and like drop them back. Basically like pull them all into the middle and just like highlight the one, like a big stack. And like, hey, this is the one we're focusing on. But there's ones back here. And then move them all right back up here. And have just order them based on the timestamp. And then like reset all the physics stuff. I think we have options. And I think we've sort of like figured out how to pull stuff out. I do feel like we were relying a little bit too much on this where is it? This delay for the chat messages. I don't know a good way to improve that though. If we get a whole bunch of messages, we might be able to like figure out a way to like stack them up and then just have them all shift down like this. If we can get rid of the delay, I think that's going to help. Because we could just continue to stack messages up as we get them, and once we're done with the highlight, then they'll just all shift down. Yeah, I might mess around with that a little bit off stream. We'll see how my week goes next week and what have you. But I think what we end up doing here next week is they're sticking there. Can I go? I don't know if I like that. Can I do? There we go. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but so what do we do with this? If we can deal with the new messages coming in, and we got options, either we stack them up or we delay them. But if we can just have it like once we resume, like it just goes back into normal. The thing that we need to solve for is moving it out and then moving it back into position. So back into position either means we take a snapshot of the position of everything when we highlight, and that might actually be the way to go, because then we can put everything back in that same position and then go, hey, now you're in dynamic mode again. I think that's what we try doing next stream. Because we get the position and we can set a translation. if we try to just set a translation when it's not highlighted, this is where we're running into issues because we are like clobbering this top message coming in and operating correctly. So I don't think we can do that. I think we need to like basically have two modes, like highlighted mode and non-highlighted mode. And when we're in highlighted mode, freeze everything. We can do whatever we want with that main message, and then we put them all back into their previous positions once we're out of highlighted mode. And I think that's the way we go. I guess if I set everything to kinematic position and set them, we might need to pull some of that information up and have some of this triggered by the component that is handling all of these chat items. So the wrapper component of that. I think that's what we're going to do next time, though. We got what we're getting the highlight. It's triggering it right. We can move it in and out. So now we're just like, I mean, it feels like polished work, but also I don't expect it to be easy. I didn't expect any of this physics stuff to be easy. But I think in going through all of this, hopefully it's helpful to all of you. I think it's been helpful for me to understand how to deal with, and I mean, it's one thing to say physics and just chuck a whole bunch of models into a scene, but for you to be able to like interact or work with it in a way that's more than just like a video. If the physics is deterministic and you chuck all the stuff in the same way every time, it's no different than if you had a video, because the video is going to do the same exact thing every time you hit play. Your code is going to do the same exact thing every time you hit like rerun. So I think playing with the the potential to have dynamic. Wow. It's at the end of the stream here. Dynamicism. It's fun to be able to play with it being dynamic. There we go. And like I want to play off of that, and I think that's the important bit here. And in understanding and getting all of this to work here, I think we've kind of like figured out how we can enable that in any future things that we do. So hopefully it's been helpful for all of you. Hopefully it's one more stream on this so we can kind of move on to other topics. It's definitely been a little bit more difficult than I was hoping for. Because I think it is sort of a unique interaction as far as what the physics engine is expecting you to do and what React 3 Fiber is expecting you to do. So hopefully it's been helpful for all you. I think it's been helpful for me to understand the React 3 Fiber and Rapier, and hopefully one more stream and we've got it working enough, and then I'll probably kind of continue to put little things on. We got the little follow thing before, that's still with Stream Elements, so I'll probably end up pulling that in and doing very similar stuff. But it would be fun to do. I have the drops working. Should we go out with the drop? Hopefully the drops are working on this scene too. Hey. Oh, except it's behind. I don't know if I like that. I kind of like it in front. Well, it would be real fun to have follower events interact with those drops, and that's what I'm going to work towards. I think we're at the point where we've hit on all the big points and the major topics in setting all of this up, that it's probably going to be stuff that ends up happening off stream, but we'll see. If it seems like something interesting, and let me know in the comments. if you think otherwise, but I think that's going to be something that might make sense to do off stream. So anyways, happy Friday. This is the last stream of the year. We've pretty much gone, I think we're over a year on streaming pretty consistently. I think the only things I've really skipped are like holidays or little random vacations here. But it's been fun. It's been fun. I'm happy to have had the ability to do it on this regular of a schedule, and I hope it's been beneficial for y'all. And I'm looking forward to next year and what we how we take things further. So enjoy the New Year's. See ya on the next one and in the next year. Bye.